Hey there, nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and today we're doing kind of a little bit of a different video today. Usually, I don't like putting out two videos on the same day, but today I just could not help myself, and the reason why that is the case is because of this news from the Warhammer Communities page that I saw up here today. They're talking about some of the main factions that will be available for Warhammer the Old World from its development diary. So let's go ahead and talk about that real quick. So we already know right off the bat that the Old World is going to feature the Bretonnians as well as the Tomb Kings. They revealed as much during the latest round of reveals. So because that, we do know exactly that those two will definitely play a role within the Warhammer the Old World faction. But here on this page, as you can see right here, they kind of laid out exactly what core factions will be available on their first rollout for Warhammer the Old World. So this is what we have so far. So far they have the Empire as well as Dwarves. It looks like they have Bretonnia, Wood Elves, as well as High Elves for the good guys, I guess you would say. And then for the bad guys, you have Orcs and Goblins, Warriors of Chaos, Beastmen, as well as Tomb Kings. So there's 9 different factions that are available for this very first rollout. And it looks like the reason why this is the case because much, as it says right here on their page, it says much of the action in the first wave of books and supplements takes place in and around the border princes, the burial lands between the Empire and Orc territory. Accordingly, we'll be focusing on 9 core factions. So that part is kind of interesting. I can kind of see why they went with these core factions and why they left out some of the other ones, and it's kind of understandable to understand why. So let's go and talk about that real quick. So when it comes to the factions they have, obviously they're going to have High Elves and Wood Elves as well. That's because these guys are in the Old World with the High Elves having, settlements along the coastline. Bretonnian Empire, of course, and Dwarves are old staples of the Old World as well. Same thing with Orcs and Goblins, Warriors of Chaos, and Beastmen as well as Tomb Kings. Tomb Kings is kind of like outside of the Old World, but I can understand why they wanted to include them. Now, some of the factions they did not include are groups like Lizardmen, for example, Skaven. Who else did they not have on this list as well? There's a bunch of Ogre Kingdoms, for example. Yeah, they talk about it right here. Dark Elves, Skaven, Vampire Counts, Demons of Chaos, Ogres of Kingdoms, Lizardmen, as well as Chaos Wars. These are factions that are not going to be released in the initial launch of this. And I can kind of understand why they did this. I'm kind of sad they didn't include these factions, but I understand why they want to do this for. It kind of makes sense because here's why I think they did this. First of all, they're not going to really fully commit to this product because they're not sure how this product's going to go, first of all. So it's probably one of the main reasons why they were not going to throw those other ones in here. Another reason why they probably chose these ones is because these ones actually have a lot of followers, a lot of players who actually use this as well. At the same time, they can also still sell older kits, if that makes sense, as well as new kits they might have for these ones as well. They have been teasing about releasing some new kits for these factions, so I think that's the reason why they did so. It's just enough to get a lot of players who already might have armies on hand to get back into it. It's also kind of limited enough to actually have new players come in as well. At the same time, geographically speaking, this is an area that you see most of these factions, except for the Tomb Kings. That's kind of like an off one. You could easily replace that with vampire counts, but like they said before, they said they're not going to include vampire counts in this first set. Now they give you a list of reasons as to why this is the case, why they didn't go with these other groups for the most part in terms of narrative as well as lore. But I think the reason why is because they're going to roll those guys out in a second wave of stuff, if I had to guess. Unfortunately, Games Workshop just never releases everything all at one go when it comes to its codexes, for example, and rules and stuff like that. They kind of do like a slow roll for the most part, so that's one of the things that's happening here. But at the same time, though, these are some pretty core groups that, most people kind of associate with when it comes to Warhammer the Old World for the most part. I still kind of think it's kind of weird they didn't put vampire counts in here. I think that's kind of strange how they didn't do that. Now, the only real reason why I could think of why they didn't put these in here so much is because of Age of Sigmar, if that makes sense. For example, Dark Elves, we do have a lot of stuff with the Canaanites, with stuff like that from Age of Sigmar, so I think they might have done that so that way people don't use their Age of Sigmar miniatures in Warhammer the Old World too much. Whereas, they did away with High Elves and Wood Elves for the most part. You mainly have Sylvaneth now in Age of Sigmar, not so much Wood Elf units. And same thing, we don't really have High Elves anymore. You have the Lumineth Realm Lords, I think they're called in Age of Sigmar. So I think they got rid of the old Wood Elf kits just for the elves themselves, as well as a lot of the High Elven kits as well. So making those two factions, you might have to buy those as well. Same thing with the dwarves, for example. There's not that many dwarves anymore, traditional dwarves, left in Warhammer Age of Sigmar. You have the Caradron Overlords, but you don't really have these guys. Same thing with Empire. You do have the free cities, but they're kind of like in smaller box sets, so I can see that as well. Same thing with Bretonnians. You don't have any Bretonnians at all left over at all, so these are some new miniatures they could actually sell you guys as well. Same thing with like vampire counts. There's a lot of Age of Sigmar vampire or undead stuff now with the Soulblight Gravelords, I think is what they're called now. So maybe that's why they don't do that. Same thing with ogres and demons. Like Demons of Chaos, that was a strange one for me, but I think the reason why they did that is because you can buy Demons of Chaos for 40k. Same thing with Age of Sigmar, so I think they did that so that way you're forced to buy more Warriors of Chaos stuff, which is kind of interesting because you do have a lot of Warriors of Chaos miniatures still out there from Age of Sigmar. Same thing with Beastmen and Brayherds. So it's kind of interesting to do that. Orcs and Goblins is kind of interesting because they divide up between the Moonspike Gits, the Aurochs, and the Bone Splitters, and the Iron Jaw, all those different varieties. They kind of split them all up. So it'll be kind of interesting to see if they'll come out for just this stuff here, because I don't know if they'll put in Black Orcs or not because of the fact that there's no Chaos Dwarves anymore. But who knows? We'll see where that goes with that one as well. Same thing with Tomb Kings. Like they totally got rid of all the Tomb King stuff, so that's something they could actually sell quite a bit of as well. Things like Ogre Kingdoms, they still have the what's it called, Maw Tribes, I think they're called now. Lizardmen with the Seraphon, and then Chaos Dwarves. Unless you're going Forge World, you don't really see much for Chaos Dwarves for the most part. So I think that's why, because from a marketing scheme, it kind of makes sense. If you have a lot of AOS stuff that you want to bring into Warhammer the Old World, they're going to start with factions that you're going to have to buy stuff first, so that way they can include that in there. So that kind of makes sense for that as well. Luckily for me, though, this is not a problem for me because I pretty much have armies for all of these except for Beastmen as well as Tomb Kings. Everything else, though, I pretty much have in our Studios collection, so we could definitely just pick off on the ground running. They did say they will put out legacy rules for free for these other factions at the launch of the game. So that'd be kind of nice to see exactly what they come up with for those. So that part is kind of nice as well. So that is pretty cool that they got this new news coming in here as well. So that's pretty much it. I'm really super excited to see exactly what they come out with for the rules as for whatever new kits they have for these core factions at this point. But tell me what you guys think so far. Do you think this is a good move? Do you think it's a bad move? Do you agree with the factions they picked? You know, all kinds of stuff. I'd love to hear you guys' opinions about this as well. Personally, looking at this with Warhammer the Old World, I'm starting to get like a little inspired here, for example, because like I don't really have a Beastman army or a Tomb Kings army, so it'd be kind of interesting to see if, like, I don't know, something in the back of my head. Maybe I might get another army after all. Who knows? It depends if I can get it at a cheap price, but that's the big thing there. So we'll talk about that later. I'm thinking about maybe going with a brand new army for this faction set to see exactly how it works out. I mean, who knows? Who knows what's going to go down the line. But anyways, this is my little rant here, my little ramble about Warhammer the Old World. Once again, tell what you guys' your thoughts are. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is valuable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good to listen to you guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.